We move on. Mr. Edward Chia.
Question 29, sir.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, may I take the next three questions together?
Yes, please.
Members have asked about what MParks is doing to manage Singapore's wild boar population and to ensure public safety. Public safety is our priority. We want residents to feel safe in and around our green spaces. That is why we take a proactive, holistic, and science-based approach in managing the wild boar population. Wild boars are naturally found in many parts of the world, including Singapore and our region. For the most part, wild boars travel in herds and stay within forested areas. While Bukit Panjang and the adjacent Zhenghua Nature Park do not have a resident wild boar population, wild boars appear from time to time due to the estate's close proximity to nature reserves and other forested areas, such as the Chestnut Nature Park and the Dairy Farm Nature Park. We know that residents in Zhenghua and Bukit Panjang are concerned about the recent wild boar incidents in the area. MParks has taken steps to mitigate the risk and will be closely monitoring the situation. For instance, MParks has trapped and removed 19 wild boars from the vicinity of Bukit Panjang since May this year. In addition, MParks has been installing exclusion fences to reduce the possibility of wild boars entering the estate. MParks is also working closely with the grassroots and the Holland Bukit Panjang Town Council to engage the community on proper food waste management to reduce human-generated food sources that may attract wild boars. Wild boars have high reproductive rates, giving birth up to twice a year with a litter size of up to 12 piglets. Female wild boars can start reproducing from 18 months of age. And wild boars do not have natural predators in Singapore. MParks therefore has to actively manage the wild boar population. This includes carrying out habitat modification, such as removing oil palms to reduce wild boars' food sources. And in line with the practice in many countries, MParks also removes boars where necessary to ensure public safety. Based on studies by MParks, these measures have helped to keep the wild boar population in our nature reserves stable, at a density that's lower than those recorded in similar forest reserves in the region. MParks is also working closely with stakeholders on public education and outreach to promote safe and responsible human-wildlife encounters. And this includes discouraging the feeding of wildlife, which can alter their natural foraging behavior and cause them to rely on humans for food. MParks does this through public education, as well as enforcement action against illegal feeding of wildlife. MParks is also engaging the community on how to respond to wildlife sightings, such as remaining calm and keeping a safe distance if they encounter a wild boar. When a member of the public reports a wild boar sighting, MParks will respond immediately. MParks will trap and remove any wild boar that is found in a residential area to ensure public safety. MParks will continue to take a comprehensive, science and community-based approach to manage Singapore's wild boar population and to ensure public safety.
Mr. Liang Eng Hua.
Thank you, sir. First and foremost, I want to thank the SMS and also the MParks team for coming down to the Nature Park at Bukit Panjang to assess the situation and to announce enhanced measures to deter the wild boars from coming to our area. To SQ, firstly, as what the SMS has said in his reply, that MParks will be putting up exclusion fences to deter the wild boars from coming in. So can I ask the SMS how effective has that been? And in the case of Bukit Panjang, we have a very lengthy border with the nature reserve and nature parks, whether that is actually possible to exclude the wild boars from coming in. Second question is, as he also mentioned about the high reproductive rate of the wild boars and that there being no natural predators. So how is MParks going to ensure that the population growth of the wild boars will not cause damage to the ecosystems within the nature parks, and whether the nature parks indeed have the space to accommodate so many wild boars there? Thank you.
SMS Tan.
Sir, on the first question by Mr. Liang Eng Hua on the effectiveness of the exclusion measures, let me set the context by saying that in certain hotspots, MParks has installed exclusion fences that adhere to specific guidelines, such as the depth of installation and the type of materials used. These have been effective in restricting wild boars' access to the fenced areas. In some areas, MParks has also deployed cattle grids, which are metal grids designed with gaps that are wide enough for the feet of the hoofed animals, such as wild boars, to enter. This deters such animals from crossing the grid while still allowing people to cross. In Pulau Ubin, it has been observed that the wild boars tend to avoid stepping across such cattle grids. And therefore, to restrict the wild boars' access to Zhenghua Nature Park, MParks has been installing a combination of exclusion fencing and cattle grids at 3 access points that we've deemed to be where there are more wild boars likely to enter the residential areas. The cattle grid at the Bangkit underpass was completed on 23rd of June this year, and our monitoring showed that this grid, as well as the area's exclusion fencing, have been effective so far. MParks is also installing a combination of exclusion fences and cattle grids along Chestnut Avenue and under the Gali Batu flyover. These works are expected to be completed by end August 2023, and MParks will continue to monitor the efficacy of these measures moving forward. On Mr. Liang's second question, I'd like to share with the member that MParks carries out tracking studies to monitor changes in the wild boar population and to identify hotspots. Based on MParks findings, the wild boar population in Singapore, Singapore's nature reserves has remained relatively stable. Between 2019 and 2020, MParks conducted a study using camera traps, which found that the density of wild boars was about 6.57 per kilometer square in our nature reserves and about 5.22 per kilometer square in our nature parks. These densities are lower than those recorded in larger tracts of forest reserves in the region with similar vegetation types. As I shared earlier in my earlier reply, MParks will continue to take a comprehensive, science-based and community-based approach to manage Singapore's wild boar population. This includes conducting habitat modifications to reduce food sources, managing their movements through fencing and hoarding, and removing wild boars where necessary to ensure public safety. And we will continue to discourage the feeding of wildlife and take enforcement actions against such acts.
Mr. Edward Chia.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'd like to ask SMS, was the presence of a dog in the latest incident at Zhenghua Nature Park a contributing factor to the incident? And the second SQ is, if the wild boar population is left unmanaged, what is the impact to our biodiversity? Thank you.
So I thank Mr. Edward Chia for his 2 questions. The first one is about on walking dogs. Our encouragement to dog owners walking the dogs is that if they walk the dogs in parks that are near forested areas, we encourage them to avoid walking the dogs at night due to the low visibility and the possibility of encountering nocturnal wildlife. And if a dog owner sees a wild boar in the distance while walking his or her dog or dogs, the owner is advised to keep their dogs close by tightening his leash and to move away from the wild boar as quietly and as rapidly as possible. And on his second question around the ecological role of the wild boars, as I mentioned earlier, wild boars are indigenous to many parts of the world, including in Europe, in part of Asia, in Singapore, and the region. And they do serve important ecological functions, such as acting as a seed disperser and helping with soil nutrient recycling with their rooting behavior. Wild boars are omnivorous. They eat not just eat vegetation, but they dig the soil to eat the small little worms and small little insects under the soil. And that behavior helps to have a impact on the positive ecosystem by dispersing the seeds. And for example, they help to regenerate native flora by uprooting young plants and saplings, and they compete aggressively for compete aggressively with other nature species for food. So they play an important ecological function. But at the same time, I think we look at two extreme suggestions that have been raised by different people before. One is that, firstly, I explained in my earlier reply that we proactively adopt a science-based, community-based approach to manage the wild boar population, importantly to ensure public safety. But on the other hand, it is so impossible to entirely not have any wild boars in Singapore, not least because within our region, there are many wild boars outside Singapore, and they actually can swim to Singapore as well. So our approach is a proactive one, using science, community-based approaches to manage wild boar and to maintain a balance in our ecosystem.
Mr. Louis Ng.
Thank you, sir. And I thank SMS for sharing about the population density. But could I also ask, what is the carrying capacity of our forests for wild boars in Singapore? And also whether NParks has the projected carrying capacity as we develop more forest area. Secondly, I appreciate SMS has stressed again that our approach is science-based, and I hope we continue this science-based approach. But could you clarify how it will be science-based if we are really basing on complaints? When there are complaints, we go in and remove a few wild boars. And again, considering how the high reproduction rate of these wild boars, how effective it is to just remove a small number of wild boars and kill them.
Sir, I thank Mr. Ng for his two questions. I explained earlier about our study that we've done using camera traps in our nature parks and nature reserves, and we benchmarked them with some of the comparable density that we found in the region of similar tracts of land and similar vegetation. But it's not a complete science. This is something we refine balance, and when I say science-based, is that we want to look at evidence, and we work very closely with our IHLs, we work very closely with our researchers, we work very closely with international partners and our industry partners as well to make sure that our approach is aligned with best practices around the world. On the second point about how effective has it been, I earlier mentioned also in my reply how we measure the density, look at comparisons around the world, but also it's not just about removing wild boars. I explained earlier our approach in terms of how we have exclusions, fences, categories, how we work together with the community to educate our members of public, educate our residents about feeding wildlife, and also how we use a science-based approach to track the carrying capacity or density of wild boars. So it's a holistic approach. I'm not saying that we are perfect or that we found the answers. This is an issue that doesn't just confront in Singapore. Many other jurisdictions, many other countries that we speak to beyond Asia, in Europe as well, face the same problems, face the same challenges. And we are constantly working with them, understanding what they do, and updating our playbook here.